bunch of questions for you.
Okay.
I'm sure you all know I am Miyaguchi, Executive Director of the Ethereum Foundation. Super honored to be with here today at Ethereal in Tel Aviv and to ask you some questions.
Thank you.
So first off, I don't know how many people read this. I think so many people in our community did. The 2019 Ethereum Foundation update. And I was really fascinated in that update by your philosophy of subtraction that you've been applying when it comes to the EF and your role in it. So I'd love to hear you tell us a little bit about that and what you're bringing to the table there.
Sure. Maybe I can give a little bit of background of this, the philosophy of subtraction, which I use the Japanese term often. I did that in last DevCon, that in Japanese it's hikizan no bigaku. It's literally mean like beauty in subtraction.
One more time.
Hikizan no
Kikizan.
no bigaku.
Kikizan no bigatu.
Yes. So that literally means beauty in subtraction. So that was in probably in older Japanese culture where if you add too much, you kind of lose that essence of what you have. And then looking at this ecosystem, and also this might be something that I bought, but at the same time, I think it's been in the Ethereum communities, like it's been the core value of their community. And the reason is that the technology of blockchain, it is decentralized, and the benefit of that is really you don't have one single point of failure, and then as the ecosystem grows, that EF is one, like we use the term like constellation of many stars, and then we are one star, but we hope that we are still sort of a guiding star, but we don't really try to control everything, when we cannot do everything. And also for the purpose of sustainability of the community, like if we do everything, if something happens to the Ethereum Foundation, and that is not good, and therefore in the same way that blockchain works. So with that, I think it's like, I think parents do that for kids. If it's easier for you to do everything instead of letting your kids do or try. But at some point you feel that, okay, we need to let them learn or let them do things, otherwise they won't be able to be independent. So we try to subtract the power of the Ethereum Foundation that originally had, because of the history, because how it started, and then really kind of empower others to be the stars in the community. And so in every decision making, whether how we allocate our own resources or we coordinate the resources in the community, like we try to think what would be the most sustainable way for us to take one action, and then with that philosophy of subtraction, eventually we hope that the community becomes more sustainable and then also more decentralized, and then we need to still a lot of coordination is needed. So we are happy to do that role, but so that's the background of the philosophy.
I think that's fascinating because we hear so much about people building to last, and explicitly doing the opposite is a really unique thing, I think, in this space and everywhere. But just to follow up on that, how do you know when to subtract and how to hand over the baton to another project or to another person? How do you know when the space is ready to have a certain kind of responsibility?
I think in general, we try to find the opportunities wherever we can actually subtract our power. We look for the opportunity all the time. And then in every project, it's already all the project in Ethereum, for the Ethereum platform is all collaborative efforts. Even though we have teams within the EF now, but those projects are actually done by with many other different contributors. So we are in a way have been like gradually subtracting the power naturally because it's open source, and I think it wasn't EF to pick, okay, you should be the one to work on this and this, like, naturally attracted the talents, and then naturally the community decided, okay, these guys are doing a great job, so let's or they naturally have more power, so that open source platform itself had that nature, and we are more like facilitating that, in a way, like, okay, there are teams that are doing good jobs, maybe they need more recognition, so there are things that maybe we can do, we can fund them, we can talk about them. So in a way, like, how do we know? I think we constantly seek to subtract our power is probably the answer.
So, is that how you see the role of the Ethereum Foundation in the space right now, as um, in this sort of parenting capacity of helping to raise projects, recognize projects in order to be able to hand off that kind of power?
Yeah, so regarding the role of the Ethereum Foundation, I think parenting, I used an example of parents to explain the philosophy of subtraction, but I think we're slightly different from being parents, but it's more like the Ethereum Foundation was founded before the mainnet launch, and it was meant to support everything about Ethereum, but also the main law was really because these people were the founders were the one who were building Ethereum. And but as you know, the community has grown so much, and then this open source attracted a lot of people and contributors, and so that the role has naturally shifted, but also we are trying to also intentionally shift to, meaning that it used to be the EF was equal to Ethereum, and there was a time like that, but now it is not like that anymore. So with that, what we try to think about often is what are the things that the Ethereum Foundation can do in this ecosystem now. There are many builders, there are many researchers, and that also, yeah. And then we try to think about what we can do better than others because of the history, because of the unique position of the Ethereum Foundation. And we think that is the role of these coordinations. Because of the decentralized structure, there are a lot of coordination. Manual coordination is still needed, and that's where we think we can do best at this point. And this might, I think, role should change based on the state of Ethereum. And I think currently the role is we are still coordinating, or we still do have researchers and developers, and then who are working on the platform and then also scaling. But we do also have more, coordination roles within the foundation, such as giving grants and also organizing research workshops, and so that is a shift, and it's still shifting, and then may shift later more too. But that's the big difference between how when the EF was started and the current state.
So you mentioned the decentralized structure and the need for coordination. And I came from ConsenSys, which is obviously a decentralized organization. The Ethereum Foundation, from what I understand, is also a decentralized organization. The platform itself is or has the goal of being maximally decentralized. Can you comment on what some of the benefits and challenges are of a decentralized structure?
Sure. I'm pretty sure you have a lot of things to say for this because I've been watching ConsenSys actually has been running the organization in decentralized way as a business, which I think was very, very, like something very new when I saw that. That I think the benefits are obviously, like it's a better way to do this type of innovation work. We don't really have to. We can hire any talents globally, and we also each team is more has more autonomy, and then they get to decide what are the most important things, or they should decide on like what they should be working on, and they manage themselves. So there are a lot of benefits, and the challenges are I think about two things. One is sense of ownership, which is sometimes because we don't really have this hierarchy corporate structure, who is reporting to who, and this, like he is the manager of, like, we sort of have team leads, but they try to make decision making also very democratic, or like more teamwork way. And so, like, when there's a specific team, that's easier to coordinate. But then when there are other coordination work that I have, like, people who have to just jump in where the help is needed, and sometimes because they have to work on multiple things. And also that's another characteristic of this decentralized structure, is many people are working on many different projects, which also have a lot of benefits, because you can have bigger picture, knowing what other teams are doing. But at the same time, like, sometimes we could lose, like, sense of ownership. And also the redundancy is another challenge. I think it's again, like, it's a coordination problem that we are trying to be better, and I think we're getting better. But sometimes, like, it's the same thing in the community too. Oh, we didn't know someone else is working on the same solution, and if had we known, maybe there was better way to coordinate this better. So I think it's that's the same challenges that this entire ecosystem has, but also those are the challenges that the Ethereum Foundation has too.
Yeah, that makes sense. And in a world where there are coordination challenges like redundancy that are introduced by decentralization, how do we make sure projects like building out the roadmap of Ethereum stay on track if we're in this decentralized context?
So that's also, this is probably one of the also benefits of having decentralized structure is, yes, there's no one organization or one person who is watching everything, but there are many organizations who are watching everything, or not just organizations, but many people. Like, if you look at Twitter, sometimes I learn about some problem that is happening in the community by reading tweet, someone's tweet, and meaning, like, everyone is watching everything. So it's actually, I mean, I guess that's happening because of these social media in the modern world. But I think there's a natural kind of, like, cleansing mechanism sometimes that the community has. So if someone is not doing a job, it will be kind of commented, or, like, pushed in public.
Like an immune system kind of
Immune
reacting.
system, exactly. So that we definitely have that. But also, again, even though we realize something about something to improve, we're not going to say this is the something that Ethereum should improve. Not like we will suggest as one of the organizations in the ecosystem, but so we are always one of them. But there are many others that's actually often nice to have, because, again, like, we can do everything, and even the technological improvements that, like, definitely it's not the EF that is doing everything at all. So it's like the more talents we have in the ecosystem, the more brains we get to rely on, and that's same for the process, the improvements of the processes.
So you mentioned the antibodies in the ecosystem kind of coming and eating the bad projects or pointing out where there are problems. But what about the opposite? How do you surface the projects that are the most useful to the community, and how do you decide to fund them?
Yes. So I think instead of just well, one way is just people apply, and we do have the grant program that people can apply. But before that, I think we think that we should start with the list of things, and also looking at the ecosystem. What are the missing pieces? What are the areas that needs to be more improved? And then we create those lists, and then look for those projects or the teams who are working on those solutions. And again, we still need help to discover the best talents to who are working on these missing pieces. And then sometimes we're still like tiny organization considering the size of the ecosystem, so we sometimes get like a lot of information and applications, and then sometimes it takes time for us to screen everything. But again, those processes actually help us to refine and then understand who are working on the missing pieces, and then we try to fund them in the best way. And then also now we actually have, it was originally just grants program has been there in the Ethereum at the Ethereum Foundation, and then we have been active since last year, and this year, on top of that, we just realized the need of support, different types of support, other than just money, and we also realized that that's something that EF can maybe able to do better than others, meaning such as when we say, oh, these are the project that might be helpful for the apps. And when we say that, it's at least that we can reach more people than just one project trying to reach, trying to tell everyone to use that. So things like that, meaning the communication support, or that's where we want to improve. So we started this, we soft launched it at ETH Berlin, but we call it now Ecosystem Support Program. That is broader. Basically, that's what ETF does, but that's a broader definition of support, not just money support. And then we like everyone to request if one is what kind of support they're looking for. Sometimes some projects are doing a great job. They might not need the financial support, but they might need to work with other community members to make the project better. So things like that, some coordination help we might able to arrange and include in the communication. So that's something we just had started.
So you mentioned these missing pieces, and I know a lot of people in Israel and folks at Ethereal Tel Aviv are entrepreneurs in the blockchain space, building on Ethereum. What is on your list of missing pieces? What would you want folks in the audience to build?
I don't know if I should say my personal opinion, but there are a list of things that actually easiest way to see this is if you come to DevCon. We have tracks at DevCon, every DevCon, but also at DevCon 5 next month too. We have tracks. So one is security and scaling, security, privacy, and all those tracks are the areas of. Many of them are research areas that we think that are still very important for Ethereum platform. And also things like now that the platform is getting improved, and then we feel, I hope everyone is feeling more confident that Ethereum is going to scale. And then with that, there are many other things that needs to be improved. Things like DevOps experience. Again, like I think the EF is general role of the Ethereum Foundations or are for developers, and then also developer communities. And I like it's not us to improve developer experience, meaning like we coordinate those efforts, and then there are many players who do really good job on that. So we like to see more of those efforts and also coordinate those efforts.
Got it. So you have some ideas of where you want the community to go in terms of what they're building. But what do you see as the next big technical milestone for Ethereum that's going to get people excited?
Um, I don't think I need to say this, but I think everyone here, since it's E3, everyone here knows that everyone should be probably most excited about like East 2.0 phase 0 is happening soon, which you probably are reading that a lot on media, and and then yeah, so we often talk about ETH 2, but then also 2.0, which is a scaling of Ethereum, but also we keep like we have been supporting ETH 1x, which is like original Ethereum, and which we are still going to, of course, like keep supporting. And so things are happening as planned, and so I hope everyone is excited about the next like actual launch of phase 0, and that is finally happening soon. So yeah, then and other than that, I think it's I don't know if it's technical milestones or only for platform level, but as you know, there are many. Now you hear a lot of news about actual things like big corporations and implementing things on Ethereum, and that is also like we hear that often now. So the meaning like we will hear that more, and that like every time I don't know those plans in advance, of course. So whenever I hear those news, and then that's something very exciting because again, like we were working on this platform, and then when we hear those real businesses using Ethereum, and that is definitely that should be exciting to everyone. And yes.
So, on the topic of enterprises, I've heard that the Ethereum Foundation and the Enterprise Ethereum Alliance have been collaborating a lot lately. Could you comment a little bit on that?
Yeah, so I think I don't know if collaborating a lot is a bit again like our priority is still like we have a lot to do on the Ethereum like a mainnet platform, but because of the progress of the platform and then also that the need all those enterprises size or like one learning a lot more about Ethereum, but now like beyond the learning stage, many companies are considering or already implementing things on Ethereum, and I think naturally from both sides that we felt the need to communicate more. Like that's actually like simply like we should communicate more uh, because we can, and then so it's like I just joined the EA as a board member, but it's just a like kind of like a symbol of us trying to communicate better, meaning with their more interest from the enterprise side to implement things on public mainnet. And if there are things that if we learn their challenges earlier, maybe there's something that we can think better, but also for them if they learn what this the community members are building, um, and big corporations will be able to learn. And so again, this is like we'd like to be the bridge of that communication, and starting with our researchers, but also connecting with players in the ecosystem. Like for example, the other day, that there are many projects that we are supporting regarding plasma, but then the old plasma solution group that they are looking for like real use cases for them to actually improve their researches. And so they reached out to me like, hey, Aya, do you think we can talk to EA members so that maybe they're, and then I said, oh yeah, I've heard that this company is already implementing like plasma that you guys probably don't know. And globally, it's hard to do that on their own, do those research. But if the EA has big network, and so like we just connected them to be able to talk to each other, and it turned out there are still many, of course, many companies who do not know anything about plasma or anything. So that's actually a good thing. Like we can help the education part too.
Very cool. And I think enterprise adoption is a great theme to touch on. Another big macro theme right now, and we're sitting here on the DeFi stage, is obviously DeFi. After the last Ethereal in New York, some of the media was so focused on DeFi that they were saying it's been the primary use case for Ethereum so far. Do you agree with that? What do you think of DeFi and where it's headed?
So I originally got confused by the definition of the term DeFi, which is, originally when I heard the term like this, that means decentralized finance. But I thought, oh, isn't that the thing that we've been always working on? But I think the current definition of DeFi, I don't personally think it's the only main things that for Ethereum, but it is obviously something that attracts more attention from media or the public because it is easier to create business models around that, and then plus some meaning like like you can make money easier, and that's something always like attract media's attention with some numbers, and so I guess it's also easier to see the real use cases for people. So that is one thing, but I personally like this definition to be a little bit more broader. Decentralized finance, like not things like banking, the unbanked, using smart contract for financial inclusions and things like that. I think it is happening, but it gets less attention. So something that I think that's going to be really the main use case at some point because of the number of people that can help.
So you touched a little bit on, what people choose to focus on at different times, and if you right now could put something up on a billboard about Ethereum that you wanted people to know, what would you say? What do you wish people knew? What would you put up on that sign?
I think I'm always personally am more excited about, like it may not be a big thing, but something that is helping like people's life, like real life, even on a smaller scale. And so that's something I want people to know more. And I do that naturally whenever I talk to like media or even regulators, because like here's the thing that you don't read about on media, but you should know. But also, of course, there are media that cover these little stories too. And so I personally try to do that more often. But things like, like these, like there are projects that are helping refugees or disasters victims of disasters, and it is really blockchain is helping their life, and I can be on the project side, but whenever I receive updates, I actually try to be in touch with these projects, and and they, when they sent me a message like, hey, like this is what we have done. Look at these photos, helping Syrian refugees in Lebanon that are actually using blockchain to buy supplies, and that really excites me. And I like everyone to know about those better, and because it is really, I can't like I'm actually helping people to work on, or like actually I'm helping, but we are helping the contributors to help build Ethereum. But that on top of that platform, there are applications that being built, and then those applications are helping those people's help, and that's a like a very indirect effect that impact that I'm contributing myself, but I do need to. It's always excite me. So when I hear those updates, because so they always I really thank you for like making time to hear the updates. But I always say no. I thank you because that's actually important for me to motivate myself, but also feel excited because again, like I can't feel that impact in front of me that easily, but that is really happening. And then I hope everyone hear about those efforts more often.
So that's great. Now we all know how to get Aya's attention over email. If you want her to read your email among
yes.
millions of emails, do some good in the world, help some
Yes.
refugees, make things better for people, and she will read your email.
No, like
that
seriously,
seems like
yeah,
a reasonable,
really, like it can be
trade.
Can be small project, but if you are really making real impact, I'm always excited to hear that. I will always make time to hear those effort.
So that funnels really well into my very last question, which is I hear from folks in the space all the time that they want to interact with the Ethereum Foundation, that they want to be helpful to the foundation. What's the best way that folks here can contribute and can help you out in your mission?
So I think everyone here is already helping us, meaning like helping Ethereum is our role, like I explained. So if you're building things on Ethereum, you're already helping us. It's again with the philosophy of subtraction. We don't really need to have every one of this talent inside the Ethereum Foundation, but I think as long as you are in the ecosystem, you're already helping us. But if you're not, you just start contributing to the open source project board, or start building the decentralized applications. Or again, like there are many collaborations that you can just join. It's such an open ecosystem and the community. That's the easiest thing for you to do, and really like find your passion there. And that's the most helpful thing for us. And again, like I mentioned, for my own passion, if you can tell me great stories of your project that you're building on Ethereum, that's also very, very helpful for my mental peace too. for those great stories to tell.
Well, that's amazing. Thank you so much for being here. It's an honor to have you at Ethereal, and please give Aya a round of applause.
Thank you, Amanda.